Awesome. Hello, everyone. Welcome. This is our timeshare session, Live and Later the Lumio Way. Today, we're going to be talking about flipped learning, and I'm so excited you're here. I'm Alexandra Marcus. I'm a French teacher. Don't worry, the session will be in English, not in French. Ça va? I teach at Limbrook School in Oakville, Canada. Shout out to any of my colleagues who joined us for the session. Whoop, whoop. We're glad you're here. I was first introduced to flipped learning this year, and I was very apprehensive about it. Wasn't too sure what the deal was, but it has changed my teaching. It has changed the way my students learn. And I'm so excited to share that with you. I'm going to be working today with Teddy. Teddy, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hey everyone, I'm Teddy Kambarov and I work for SMART, but I've had the pleasure of working with Alexandra and her entire school staff and leadership over the past year. And I'm just so excited for her to share all the awesome things that she's done in her class. And as part of our resources, we'll also share a study conducted by Alexandra and another teacher at Lynbrook, R.D. Malik. And so you'll get to read all about their implementation as well.
Cool. So today we're going to take you to 3 timeshare locations. We're first going to stop in Palm Beach, Aruba, where we'll listen to the waves of flipped learning and get to know what all of that is about. Then we're going to head over to Whistler, Canada, and you'll be able to participate in a flipped learning lesson that I've designed. And finally, we're going to head over to Lake Tahoe in the US, and you are going to go on your own adventure to create your own flipped learning lesson, all within Lumio.
Yes, and please participate as much as you can. There will be a prize given, just like any of the other sessions that you've attended. So please participate in the chat. We have 2 moderators in the chat, Beth and Jason, that are going to help us answer any of your questions.
Well, thanks. All right, let's get started with what flipped learning is. When I first started teaching, I used this traditional method where I was standing in front of the class, giving instruction, and then my students would go home and complete homework activities based on what I had presented to them. Whereas now I do a mix of traditional and flipped learning. And flipped learning is you give your students an instructional video or instructional text that they have to read or watch on their own. And then they come together in the classroom and they complete those activities together. I was so apprehensive when I started that flipped learning method this year, but seeing the change in my students, they were much more excited to be learning than when I was just standing in front of the class giving out those instructions. So in flipped learning, your students really become an agent of their own learning, which I think is fantastic.
Definitely. And I've noticed just across really the North American teachers I worked with that flipped learning has sort of become the norm. So in the chat, if you've done some flipped learning, definitely let us know about it. We'll be able to see, and we'd love to hear from you and about your experiences.
Absolutely. All right, now there's some terms that have been tossed around quite a bit with our pandemic teaching and with flipped learning as well, and that's asynchronous and synchronous learning. Asynchronous learning is simply when the teacher and the students are engaged in the material at different times. So you can think of things like homework or any like practice and review questions. And then synchronous learning is when the teacher and the students are engaged in the material at the same time. So kind of like what we're doing right here. We're all looking at this material together. That would be synchronous learning. So let's think about flipped learning for a second. When the teacher is, when our students are at home completing homework questions, is that going to be asynchronous or synchronous? And you can type your answer in the chat. Let's see how we can get that.
Yeah, let me pull that up and see if I can see what everybody's saying. Well, it looks like a lot of people have done some flipped learning this past year, which is not surprising considering I'm sure sometimes we've had to teach, remotely. And everyone seems to be saying, some people are saying both. Some people are saying most people are saying it's asynchronous in answer to your question.
Awesome, you got it, guys. So homework activities would be asynchronous activities because students are learning at their own pace at home. And then let's think of, what was my example? It was, when students come together to work on a project in a classroom, would that be asynchronous or synchronous? What do you guys think? You can type that in the chat.
Looks like we're getting pretty much everybody so far saying synchronous.
Nice, you got it. You guys are flipped learning experts already. Amazing. Teddy, do you have a
There you go.
preferred do you have a preferred style of learning? Do you prefer asynchronous or synchronous learning, Teddy?
Um, I think I used to prefer synchronous, especially when I first started teaching, just because I felt like I could keep track of everything much easier. And it didn't really occur to me to give them asynchronous activities. But over the past few years, especially this year, I feel like asynchronous has a lot of benefits. So I think I'm kind of half and half. I like to use both.
Yeah, absolutely. As a student, when I back in school, I preferred synchronous learning as well. But as I go through PD sessions, I prefer both the synchronous and asynchronous learning. I find it really beneficial. Awesome. All right. So now you guys have the opportunity to participate in a flipped learning lesson. If you go to hellosmart.com or loom.io, you can join as a guest and you can join my class. I see we've got 2 members already in my class. Amazing. My class ID is 491214. And the great thing about this class ID is I use it for even my students at my own school. I don't have to switch between a grade 8 class and a grade 7 class. They don't need their own separate ID. I have my own single ID for all my students.
Yeah, it keeps it simple, right? You don't have to post it anywhere. You don't have to memorize it. Although, of course, I know for me, I end up memorizing it. I've had the same one for like 3 years. So it's kind of burned into my brain.
Awesome. All right, so let's move on to our first part of our, whoops, there we go, our flipped learning classroom. So I have a little instructional video here for you. If you are in my class, you're welcome to click play and watch the video. It's about 2 minutes long. It's about vocabulary for multiplication. So we can see here that we're going to learn about factors and products. I'll play the video really quickly here, just so we can see what it's all about.
Hello, kids, and thank you for joining me today. I am here at a factory to learn about the vocabulary used with multiplication.
And I know you might not be able to hear it on your end right now, but if you're signed into my class, then you'll get the audio on your end. And the really cool thing about incorporating these YouTube videos into your flipped learning lessons is it's ad-free at the beginning. So you'll notice that we didn't have to wait for any ads. We didn't have to wait for that skip ads button to show up. It just started the video right where it needed to start. Cool. Now, before we begin, does everyone know what a factor and a product are? You can type your answers in the chat.
Let's do a pop math quiz, guys.
Yeah.
I have everyone know. Factoring.
I was going to do a pop French quiz, but I thought math would be a little bit easier.
I think your chances were better with math for sure.
Yeah, I thought they might be.
And sounds like we're getting lots of yeses. So we are, and a couple of I think I do. So
oh, nice. I like that.
We'll do our best here.
Cool. All right. So after I have my students watch an instructional video like you just watched, or read an instructional text, I like to incorporate a little game afterwards. That way they can practice the basics as to what was introduced in that lesson. So here I've used a matchup quiz on Lumio, and you'll notice that we've got the factors on one side and we have to match them up with their products on the other side. So for example, we've got 6 times 4. We'll just bring that to the center. And we know is 24, which is the product. And so we can see that we've made the correct match of the factors and the product. And the point of the game here is to make friends with the dragon and make it happy. And once you get all the correct answers, the knight and the dragon fly off together. And I've noticed my students really like that happy ending.
Yeah, the themes are really cute. So if you're new to Lumio, this summer, since our sessions are going on here, you'll see that there are lots of different themes to choose from. So you can even do a custom theme on a couple of them, which is a newer feature, and it's been really popular lately.
Mm-hmm. Awesome. All right. And then another thing I like to include in my flipped learning lesson after the video, after a little game, is something that we call a handout. And when I click on that student progress button, I can see everybody in my class, all my students. I can see the work that they do on that handout. And they'll be given the instructions are already on that handout, what we're doing, what it's about, circle a product, write the factors to the right. And you'll notice here there's the finger, the pencil, eraser, picture, and the letter A for the typing. And you can use those to edit the handout as a student. I'm going to go into, I hope
let's see
everyone's
what people have done so far. Let's see if they figured it out yet.
Cool. Amy, I'm going to pick on you first. Cool. Amy has been able to write the factors 3 and 7 and circle the products we're working on. The great thing about using a handout as a teacher is I'm able to give feedback right on that sheet. So the next time Amy goes in, she can see what I put. Oh, nice. She circled. Oh, there we go. She circled the factors there. So in my comment, I can say, great effort, Amy. Circle the products instead. Nice. There we go. And immediately I can see that she's done that instead. Awesome. Nice work, Amy. Excellent. And when students have completed their handout from a teacher's perspective, I can see that they have submitted it. And there's a little green arrow with a check mark, or sorry, a little green circle with a check mark that goes through that shows me that those students are done.
We got some fast workers here. We've got a lot of people who got done so fast.
Yeah, great. Let's see how our friend Jillian did. Super, amazing. Jillian circled all of the products, and I can go back and write a comment on Jillian's and say, Jillian, now go back and write the factors, and Jillian will be able to go back into her work to make that correction as well. Awesome. Great work, everyone. Thanks. I think we understand our factors and our products pretty well. We're getting there. So those 3 activities that I just showed you, the video, the game, and the handout would all be asynchronous activities because the students can do those at their own pace on their own time. Then when we come together in class, I like to give my students a monster quiz just to see how they're doing in terms of understanding the material that was presented to them. And I'm going to share, hopefully, if I share this correctly, I might have to adjust some settings here. Oh, new share. There we go. Now you can see that I've adjusted. I'll show you what it's like as a student, and I'll show you what it's like over here as a teacher. So as a teacher, once I've got all my students in my class, I can start this monster quiz for the class. And as a student, it rings in that, okay, perfect. This activity has been started and we're just waiting for the teacher to assign teams. And you can divide the class into however many teams you want. Because we have so many today, it's only giving us 3 options. So let's say 9. Perfect. We've got everyone sorted into a team and we can start our quiz. As a student here, you can see that I've got the question 5 times 2 equals 10. 10 is the product. Is that true or false? I'm going to say it's true. And with the little check mark, we know that I got it correct. On the teacher side here, I can see all of the students who are participating and adding their information or answering those questions correctly. I want to see, oh, there was one right there where it jiggles back and forth. That means the student there answered it incorrectly.
It's really useful too, I think, because students get that instant feedback. And what's really cool, which I think if you were feeling adventurous and decided to get one wrong on purpose, you may have seen that that question ends up coming back to you. So students get that opportunity to actually get it right because they don't finish the monster quiz without eventually, in one way or another, getting all of the questions right.
Absolutely. And then at the end, so if I'm just going to end this one early, you always have the option to end the monster quiz early, and you can actually review all of the questions as well. So we'll see which team did the best. It's based on finishing time, and we can see how accurate everyone was. Ooh, nice work, everyone. And then what I like to do in my classroom is I like to review each of the questions at the end so that we can make sure all of our students understand. And the cool thing is it also gives a class average up here, so 81%. What my students really enjoyed when I used this in our class is they really enjoyed seeing that class average and being like, oh, madam or miss, we can do better than that. We can do better than that. And so they would want to play again to try and beat their percentage and try and get a higher score, which was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I remember when we surveyed the students, because this year, as Alexandra said, was the first year they were using Lumio. We surveyed the students on their experiences, and I think the vast majority named Monster Quiz as one of their favorite activities because it was fun and because they got to work with their friends. So that was really, really exciting to see as well.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Awesome.
So and we did have some question in the chat that came up that I think might be important, yeah. Alexandra, and that was someone asking if you did the Monster Quiz synchronously or asynchronously. So I was wondering if you could go into which activities were the asynchronous, where students did on their own in your class, and which ones would be live.
Absolutely. So the first three that we did, the video, the handout, and the matchup game, those were all done asynchronously. So the students would complete those at home. And then we, when I was working with my students, we were working on Zoom because we had to. We did our Monster Quiz synchronously. So we were all playing that one together at the same time.
Awesome. Thank you for clarifying. I'm sure everybody found that pretty helpful.
Yeah, no worries. Awesome. All right. Now to the fun of it, even more fun, build your own lesson. So Teddy's going to help us explain how you can join Lumio as a teacher. And then I'm going to walk us through how we can add some of those activities into our own lessons. So Teddy, I'll pass that over to you.
Yeah, so if you're in Alexandra's class, I see 37 people are in right now. You will see that you have the 3 bars, or perhaps you have a door, depending on how you access this. But you could click on those 3 horizontal bars and leave that class. And then in that same window, you can just type in Lumio. So it's lum.io and click enter, and it'll take you to Lumio. Now, obviously, if you don't have a Lumio subscription, you will be able to sign up for free and just kind of test it out. You do get to have about 10 lessons in there for free. And then if you're a subscriber via your school or your district, just sign in with Microsoft or with Google, whichever one you use in your school or district.
Perfect. So I'm going to end this one. Super. And once you do sign into Lumio, you're going to come to our Lumio library. And I'm going to go over here to the green button that says Add Activities. And I always go there to get started with whatever lesson it is that I want to create. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to get started with a YouTube video. So I'm going to click on the YouTube icon. And that's going to be my first slide in our lesson. Now we did multiplication vocabulary. So why don't we mix in some division vocabulary? Here we go. Oh, and this one looks pretty similar to the one that we did. I think it's from the same author, so to speak. And so I'll add that in.
Yeah, and one thing I noticed too is whenever I'm looking for a very specific video that perhaps I've used in the past that was directly on YouTube, I'll actually type that video's title in exactly as it is on YouTube, and it will come up in Lumio for me to use. But this time, as Alexandra mentioned earlier, it's going to be ad-free, and it's just going to live on its own page in your lesson. So that's a really, really nice time saver, and you will also don't have to worry about any inappropriate ads coming up.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And up here, we're going to just add a quick title for our lesson. Let's call it Division Vocabulary. Perfect. And you'll see that it's already saving to the cloud. And just like that, we already have our first slide done, our first asynchronous activity done in our lesson. Now, there is another way that you can go about adding in a video. if you click the plus sign down here, it'll open up that same window as last time when I first started. And again, I'll just click on YouTube, and then I can search within YouTube which video I would like to share. Cool. All right, let's add our second one. So in my lesson, I started with the video, and then I added a game, the matchup game. So I'm going to go over here to the game-based activity. And you'll notice there's a whole bunch of templates here. Oh, there's even the monster quiz one in there as well. We'll get to that one after. Let's add in the match 'em up. Perfect. And now there's two categories that I'm going to add. You don't have to add the category names, but I like to just because it keeps things a little bit more organized. So if we think of our division vocabulary, some of our words are going to be divisor and quotient. Whew, I know quite a few math vocabulary words for a French teacher, eh?
Yeah, it's an important skill. Not all of us can teach math, but you are doing a great job.
Thanks. Cool. So one of our divisors could be 2, and maybe our quotient is 10. If we think like 20 divided by 2 would be 10. Another one could be 3 and 5, like 15 divided by 3 would be 5. And if anyone wants to correct my math vocabulary right here, please go for it. I am all for that.
Let us know. Let us know if we're getting the math terminology wrong here.
Yeah, exactly. And let's do one more. We'll do 4 and 2. 8 divided by 4 is 2. Super. And now when students are completing this game, you can have the game instantly check answers or when prompted. And that means the student would have to complete the game first before they could check all their answers. So they won't get that instant feedback for the when prompted, just to add an extra level of difficulty on there to make them think. And then, as Teddy mentioned before, we have a bunch of themes. I chose the dragon theme last time. That was a popular one. Let's go with the garden one this time. Cool. And you can also change the title of the match 'em up. Let's add in the word division vocab. There we go. That way, when we go back into the lesson, I know which match 'em up this is about. Cool. And after the match 'em up,
all of them are.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to add in all of these game-based activities are templates, and I know we had something come up in the chat like, can I do this with cross-curricular or other curriculums? And absolutely, we just always show a particular example just so everyone can visualize what it looks like in real life. But you can do English, social studies, whatever your curriculum is, and you can even add images with that built-in search.
Mm-hmm. Thanks for adding that. Those
it sounds like people are pretty excited to try it, so that's great.
Yeah, super cool. Let's move on to our handout. So what you can do if you have like a PDF version of the handout for division in this case, you can import that resource using this one here, or you can create your own handout page and then adjust it so that each student has to complete it on their own. So I'm going to go over to this graphic organizer here, and you'll see there's so many templates here that I can choose from, which is wonderful. Which one should we choose from here? Let's do our T-chart. Super. And then in our T-chart, I can say on this side, this will be our divisors and dividends. So now we're throwing in another word for our students, divisors and dividends. And you can change the font, you can change the color, make it a little bit bigger so that everyone can see. There we go. And then on this side are quotients. Cool. And you can provide students with oral instructions, there's a little recording button here where you can speak the instructions and it'll record your voice and students will be able to hear them, or you can type out the instructions for your students as well. And then if we go over to our magic wand there, that's so cool. I didn't realize they added the magic wand feature. That's wonderful.
Yeah, I think that just came out like maybe the past week or 2 weeks. So if you guys see anything that changes, it's just that we are making improvements to Lumio all the time.
Yeah, great improvements, if I can add that.
Thank you. I will definitely let the developers know they're doing a good job. It's great to hear from a teacher using it.
Very, very helpful. Thanks. And so then I'm going to click on this, make this page an individual handout activity. You can change the name of the title if you want. I'm going to leave it as T-chart, and you can preview it so that you can see what your students will see. Cool. And then last but not least, let's add in a monster quiz to this lesson. So again, we're going to go down to the plus sign, go over to our game-based activities templates, and over to our monster quiz. Now, again, with our monster quiz, you can choose multiple choice or true and false, but you get the ability to build the quiz yourself. So let's stick with true and false, just because it's a little bit easier. Let's say 20 is the quotient of 4 and 5. Teddy, is that true or false? What do you think?
If I say true, is that correct?
I think so. That's what I was going to put.
Okay, perfect. Phew.
Whew, nice.
Pop math quiz.
Awesome. And let's add one more. We'll say 4 is the quotient of 3 and 1. What do you think about that one, Teddy? Is that true or false?
I think that would be false.
Yeah, I think so too. Any math teachers in the chat, please let us know if we're wrong.
Sounds like they're saying it's false. So I think we're getting it correct.
Woohoo, super. Awesome. And so once you've added all your questions, you can click next. You can randomize the question order if you'd like. You can set a time limit per question if you'd like. And we saw that when we were completing the monster quiz as a student, we did have a timer counting down. I like to leave it at 15 seconds. That way students have a little bit of more time to think. And as Teddy mentioned, there are different themes because it's summer. I'm going to pick our summer theme. And I know during Halloween and the winter holidays, I saw that there were some other themes down there as well, which was pretty cool too. And voila, that is our little division vocabulary lesson.
That was so fast. Alexandra, how long do you think a lesson like this in French or really any topic takes you to build?
Oh, great question. I will say when I started building in Lumio, I was taking probably about 20 to 30 minutes per lesson. But that's because I was getting used to the technology, getting used to all the great features that it had. Whereas now we just built this lesson in 5 to 10 minutes. So the more you use the technology, the faster your lesson building becomes.
Gotcha. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's great. I don't see anything super specific in the chat. But yeah, so as you can see, I just wanted to reiterate the YouTube video, the match 'em up game-based activity, and the handout. Those can all be done asynchronously. Although, of course, if you wanted to do them, in class all together, you could do that too. And then just so everyone's aware, Monster Quiz does have to be synchronous or live because Alexandra put you into teams, and that's the only way to do that is when all students are actually right there in your class, in your digital class.
Mm-hmm. Awesome, super. So I'm going to click finish editing here, and we can go back to this one. Super, awesome. All right, so now this is my time to share or our call to action today. Feel free to add the lesson, our multiplication lesson, to your Lumio library or the division lesson. I'll share that with you as well. And your second time to share call to action would be share the lesson that you built with our Lumio team on social. And we've got all of our handles and our hashtags there, and I'm sure those are shared with us in other documents as well.
Thanks again for joining us, and Thank you, Alexandra, for hosting this session and leading us through your lesson planning process.
Cool. Thanks so much for having me.